If you were born before 1958, I need you to listen to the next few minutes more carefully than almost anything else you will watch this year. Not because I want to alarm you, but because the rules that apply to your exact birth year, the full retirement age that governs your benefit, the delayed credit calculation, and a set of legal changes that took effect within the last 18 months created a window that does not exist for people born even a few years after you. And for women specifically, that window is wider and more important than almost anyone has explained. The number I want you to hold on to for the next few minutes is $26,400. That is the annual gap in 2026 between the lowest possible Social Security benefit a maximum earner can receive and the highest $2,969 a month if claimed at 62, $5,181 a month if delayed to 70. Multiply that monthly difference by 12 and you get $26,140 per year permanently every year for the rest of your life. And if you are married, every year for the rest of your surviving spouse's life after you are gone. Most women are not maximum earners, and I want to be honest about that right from the start. But the proportional math applies at every single benefit level, no matter what your specific number is. And for women born before 1958, many of whom are now between 68 and 82 years old, there are specific corrections, recent legal changes, and claiming strategies that most people in this exact age group have never been fully told about. And the conversation I want to have with you today is the one I most wish someone had had with the women I have worked with years before they made decisions they could not undo. Before we go further, this video is educational only, not personalized financial or legal advice. Every situation is different, and you should verify your specific numbers directly with the Social Security Administration or a qualified professional. Now, let me explain exactly what makes your birth year different, because this is the foundation for everything else in this video. If you were born before 1958, your full retirement age is fixed. For anyone born between 1943 and 1954, full retirement age is exactly 66. Not 66 and 2 months, not 66 and 6 months, 66. For people born between 1955 and 1959, the full retirement age increases in small steps, so reaching 66 and 10 months for those born in 1959. For anyone born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is a full 67. Here is why this distinction matters more than most people realize. If you claimed your benefit at exactly 66 and you were born before 1955, you received 100% of your primary insurance amount. No reduction, no early penalty, the full number in full. And second, if you delayed past 66, you accumulated delayed retirement credits at 8% per year all the way until age 70. For someone born before 1958 who delayed from 66 to 70, those credits added 32% to their full retirement age benefit permanently. If your full retirement age benefit was $2,500 a month, delaying to 70 produced $3,300 a month. The difference is $800 a month, $9,600 a year for the rest of your life. Now, many women born before 1958 are in their late 60s, 70s, or even early 80s right now. Some of you have been receiving benefits for years. Some are still deciding when to claim, and some made a claiming decision years ago based on information that at the time was simply incomplete. The first issue I want to walk through is one that has already delivered over $17 billion to more than 3 million people in the last 18 months, and that a specific group of women have still never received a single dollar of, because of one sentence they were told decades ago. On January 5th, 2025, the Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law. It permanently eliminated 2 rules, the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, that had been reducing or completely eliminating Social Security benefits for people who also received a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security. Teachers, school employees, many state and local government workers, federal employees under the older civil service retirement system. For women born before 1958 who are now in their late 60s, 70s, or older, this law arrived after many of you had already been receiving a reduced or zero benefit for years, sometimes decades. The Social Security Administration was required to recalculate every affected person's payment and pay the difference retroactively back to January of 2024. By mid-2025, that recalculation had already delivered over $17 billion to more than 3 million people. But here's the situation I want to address specifically, because this is the one most likely to apply to a woman born before 1958 who has never received a dime of it. If you received a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security, and you never applied for a spousal or survivor benefit based on your husband's record because you were told the government pension offset would reduce that benefit to exactly zero. You may have an unclaimed benefit right now that you do not know exists. Here's how that offset worked. It reduced your spousal or survivor benefit by 2/3 of your government pension amount. For a great many women, that calculation produced a result of precisely $0. You were told correctly at the time that filing would produce nothing, so you never filed. That advice was accurate under the old law. The old law no longer exists. What used to be zero may now be worth several hundred a month. But, and this is the part that catches people, the Social Security Administration does not automatically start paying a benefit that was never claimed in the first place. If it was never on file, there is nothing for them to recalculate. You have to apply. If you are a widow of a man who worked in public service with a government pension and you never filed for a survivor benefit because you were told the offset would eliminate it, call the Social Security Administration this week and ask specifically about your eligibility under the Social Security Fairness Act. The retroactivity on this provision is limited. Every month that passes is a month of benefit that may not be recoverable later. This is the first issue. It is also for many women born before 1958 the single largest number on this entire list because it is not a percentage increase on an existing benefit. It can be an entirely new monthly payment that has never existed on your record before. The second issue is one that affects a specific group of women born before 1958 in a way that almost nobody discusses, and it has to do with how your benefit was calculated in the first place. Social Security calculates your retirement benefit using your 35 highest earning years. If you have fewer than 35 years of actual earnings, the missing years are averaged in as zeros. For someone with 30 years of earnings, 5 0 years get averaged into the formula. For someone with 25 years, 10 zeros. Each 0 year drags the average down, and that lower average permanently reduces your benefit. Now, here's why this affects women born before 1958, specifically more than almost any other group. Women in this birth cohort built their working lives during an era when leaving the workforce for marriage, for raising children, for caregiving was the expectation, not the exception. Many of you have earnings records with substantial gaps, 5 years, 10 years, sometimes 15. For most women in this situation, the window to eliminate those 0 years by working additional years has already closed. But there is still an action available that almost nobody in this age group has ever taken. Reviewing the earnings record itself were errors. Social Security earnings records are not infallible. They contain mistakes. Employers have failed to report wages correctly. Self-employment income has been left off entirely. And here is the detail that applies specifically to women. If you changed your name following marriage, and many of you did decades ago before electronic record keeping was standard, your early earnings under your maiden name may not have been correctly linked to the Social Security number you use today. A woman who married in her 20s, changed her name, and then worked under her married name for the rest of her career may have years of early earnings sitting disconnected from her current record, correctly recorded under her Social Security number, but not under the name she used at the time and never properly cross-referenced. If your earnings record shows unusually low or zero earnings for years, when you know you remember clearly that you were working, this is worth investigating directly. Log into your My Social Security account and review your earnings record year by year. If something looks wrong, contact the Social Security Administration and explain that you believe your record may be incomplete for specific years, possibly due to a name change. They can conduct what is called a wage trace, an investigation to locate earnings that may have been recorded under a different name or number and apply them to your current record. This process takes time, but a single corrected year, one year that currently shows zero but should show real earnings of $30,000 or $40,000, can meaningfully shift your 35-year average. For a woman whose benefit has been calculated on a record with several incorrect years, the correction can add $100 or more per month for the rest of her life. The third issue is about timing, and it applies differently depending on whether you have already claimed or not. If you were born before 1958 and you have not yet claimed Social Security, the delayed claiming math is direct and powerful. Your full retirement age is 66. Every year you delay past 66 up to 70 adds 8% to your benefit. By 70, you have added 32% above your full retirement age amount. For someone with a full retirement age benefit of $2,000 a month, claiming at 70 produces $2,640 a month. The difference from claiming at 66 is $640 a month, $7,680 a year permanently. But here's the part that I think matters most for women who already claimed early at 62, 63, or 64, and who are now wondering whether that decision is permanent. There's a tool called voluntary suspension that almost nobody explains clearly. The 12-month withdrawal option, which lets you fully undo your claim and repay everything you received, only exists within the first 12 months of your benefit starting. But voluntary suspension is different, and it remains available to anyone who has reached their full retirement age. Here is what it does. If you are past full retirement age and currently receiving benefits, you can voluntarily suspend your payment. For every month of suspension past full retirement age, your benefit increases by 2.3 of 1%, which works out to 8% per year, the same delayed retirement credit rate. Suspending from 66 to 70 adds 32% to your benefit before it resumes. Let me walk through a real example because the numbers matter here. A woman claimed at 62 with a primary insurance amount of $2,000 per month. Because she claimed 4 years early, her benefit was reduced by approximately 25%. She receives $1,500 per month. She is now 67, 1 year past her full retirement age of 66. If she suspends her benefit now and resumes at 70, she adds 8% per year for 3 years, 24% total on top of her current $1,500 benefit. At 70, her benefit resumes at $1,860 per month, $360 more every month for the rest of her life. Over 10 years, that additional amount totals $43,200. The cost is 3 years of foregone payments during the suspension at $1,500 a month for 36 months. That is $54,000 she would not receive during the suspension period. The break-even point where the higher resumed benefit has paid back what she gave up is approximately 12 years after resuming around age 82 and a half. Whether this is the right move depends entirely on health, other income sources, and family longevity. But the point is this. Most women in this exact situation have never been shown these numbers, not because the numbers are hidden, because nobody sat down and ran them. The fourth issue is the one I most want every widow and every married woman watching this to hear, because it involves a decision that most households make based on incomplete information. And it is a decision that once the higher earner has claimed cannot be undone, but still leaves real choices on the table for the surviving spouse. Here is the principle. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse receives the higher of the 2 monthly benefits. Not both combined, the higher one. Whatever amount the higher earner locked in at their claiming age becomes the amount the survivor receives, potentially for decades of widowhood. If a couple's higher earner claimed early at 62 and locked in a reduced benefit, and the lower earning spouse is still alive and has not yet claimed, there is still a meaningful opportunity. The lower earner can choose to delay their own claim, build delayed retirement credits on their own record up to 70, and then compare at 70 whether their own grown benefit or a survivor benefit on the higher earner's record produces more income. Now, for any widow watching this who has not yet claimed Social Security at all, there is a specific choice available that most women are never told about. You can claim your survivor benefit now. Survivor benefits can begin as early as age 60 and delay your own retirement benefit to 70 to build delayed credits. Or you can claim your own reduced benefit now and switch to the survivor benefit at your full retirement age when it reaches its maximum. Here is the detail that makes this decision different for women born before 1958 specifically. Your own retirement benefit maxes out at 70. The survivor benefit maxes out at your full retirement age of 66, not 70. These are 2 different ages with 2 different maximums on 2 different records. Which sequence produces more total lifetime income depends on the relative size of your own benefit versus the survivor benefit, and that requires the actual numbers for your specific situation. Call the Social Security Administration and ask them to run both scenarios. Ask for your own estimated benefit at 62, at 66, and at 70. Ask for the survivor benefit at 60, at 62, and at 66. With those 6 numbers in front of you, you can identify the order that produces the most income over your expected lifetime instead of guessing or taking whichever benefit happens to be offered first. Now, I want to tell you about something that connects directly to everything I have just covered, because for women born before 1958 who were still working in higher income roles into their early 60s, this next issue can be quietly costing hundreds of dollars a month. Right now, today, Medicare Part B premiums are based on your income from 2 years prior. If you were working in a higher income capacity in your early to mid-60s and retired within the past few years, the Medicare ARMA surcharge, the income-related monthly adjustment, may currently be adding anywhere from $81 to nearly $500 per month to your Medicare premium based on income you no longer earn. The fix is a form called SSA 44, available at ssa.gov. Retirement is specifically listed as a qualifying life-changing event that allows Medicare to recalculate your premium using your current income, not the 2-year-old figure it is currently using. Filing this form with documentation of your retirement date and your current income can eliminate the surcharge immediately. For a woman born before 1958 who retired from a higher income position in 2023 or 2024, the IRMAA surcharge in 2025 and 2026 could be substantial. Filing SSA 44 is roughly a 30-minute task. It can produce savings of $1,000 to $5,000 per year or more depending on your income level before retirement. And if you are a widow whose Medicare premium is based on a joint income from a year when your husband was still working and earning significantly, this form is specifically for you too. The death of a spouse is also a qualifying life-changing event under SSA 44. Let me bring all of this together now, because I want you to see the complete picture, not as 5 separate disconnected issues, but as one coordinated review of a record that has likely never been looked at in this way before. First, if you were ever told that a spousal or survivor benefit would be reduced to 0 because of the government pension offset, that law no longer exists. Call and ask this week whether you are now entitled to a benefit that was never on file because it was never worth filing for under the old rules. Second, log into your My Social Security account and review every single year on your earnings record. If you changed your name due to marriage, pay particular attention to your earliest working years. A disconnected record from a maiden name is one of the most common and most fixable errors in this entire system, and it disproportionately affects women in your generation. Third, if you have not yet claimed, understand precisely what delaying to 70 is worth in your specific case. 8% per year, every year permanently. Fourth, if you claimed early and are now past 66, ask specifically about voluntary suspension and ask the administration to run the exact break-even numbers for your age and your benefit amount. Fifth, if you are a widow who has not yet claimed anything, do not let anyone hand you a single application without first asking for all 6 numbers. Your own benefit at 62, 66, and 70, and the survivor benefit at 60, 62, and 66. The sequence in which you claim these 2 benefits is a decision you make exactly once, and it determines your income for the rest of your life. And sixth, if you retired recently from a higher income role, or if your premium is still calculated on a joint income that included your late husband's earnings, file SSA 404 and get your Medicare premium recalculated on your actual current income. Before I get to the close, there's one more piece I want to walk through because it ties directly into the survivor benefit conversation. And it is something I have seen catch women completely off guard at exactly the moment they have the least capacity to deal with paperwork. This is about what happens in the weeks immediately after a husband passes away, and the decisions that get made often under enormous stress that can lock in a lower benefit permanently. Here's the situation I see most often. A husband dies, the funeral happens, the paperwork begins arriving, and somewhere in the first few weeks, someone, a well-meaning family member, sometimes even a Social Security representative, processing a routine death notification, suggests that the widows simply start receiving the survivor benefit right away because it is the larger of the 2 amounts at that moment, and because it feels like the simplest path forward during an already overwhelming time. For some women, that is exactly the right call. But for a woman who has not yet claimed her own retirement benefit and whose own benefit, if she waited and let it grow with delayed credits, would eventually surpass the survivor benefit at her full retirement age, claiming the survivor benefit immediately and never revisiting the decision can mean leaving the larger benefit on the table permanently. Here's the detail that almost nobody explains in that first conversation. These are 2 separate benefits on 2 separate records, and you are allowed to claim one now and switch to the other later. The switch is not automatic. It does not happen on its own when you reach a certain age. You have to specifically request it. And if nobody tells a widow that the switch exists, or that there even are 2 separate numbers to compare, she may spend years receiving the survivor benefit without ever realizing that her own benefit left to grow eventually became the larger of the 2. I want to give you a specific way to think about this because the math is not complicated once you see it laid out. At your full retirement age of 66, the survivor benefit reaches its maximum 100% of what your late husband's benefit would have been at his full retirement age, or 100% of what he was actually receiving if he had already claimed, whichever applies to your situation. That number does not grow any further after your full retirement age. It is fixed from that point forward. Your own retirement benefit, on the other hand, continues to grow with delayed credits all the way to 70, even while you are receiving the survivor benefit. So the strategy that works for many widows born before 1958 looks like this. Claim the survivor benefit at 60 or whenever it makes sense given your financial situation to begin receiving income. Let your own benefit continue growing in the background, completely untouched, accumulating 8% per year past 66. At 70, compare the 2 numbers. If your own benefit, now at its maximum with 32% in delayed credits, is larger than the survivor benefit you have been receiving, you switch. From that point forward, you receive your own larger benefit for the rest of your life. If the survivor benefit was always going to be larger no matter what, you simply continue receiving it and nothing changes. Either way, you come out ahead because you spent the years between 60 and 70 receiving income from the survivor benefit while your own benefit grew in the background for free. The reason I am spending this much time on this one point is that I have talked to women in their 70s and even their 80s who are still receiving a survivor benefit. That was the right choice at 60, but who never switched even though their own benefit fully grown would now pay them more every single month. Nobody told them the switch was something they needed to actively request. They assumed Social Security would handle it the way a payroll department handles a raise, Social Security does not work that way. If you are a widow currently receiving a survivor benefit and you have any earnings record of your own from your working years, call the Social Security Administration and ask them directly, what would my own retirement benefit be right now if I switched to it today? And how does that compare to what I am currently receiving as a survivor benefit? That single question asked once can correct a gap that may have existed for years. And the correction once made applies for the rest of your life. I want to close with something that I think matters more than any single number I have given you today. Every one of these 6 things shares the same root cause. Not one of them is a secret. Not one of them is a loophole or a trick or something that requires a lawyer or a fee. Every single one of them is a publicly available rule sitting in the Social Security Administration's own published guidance, available to anyone who calls and asks the right question. But the Social Security Administration does not call you. It does not review your file every few years and flag a recalculation you might benefit from. It does not cross-reference a name change from 40 years ago unless you specifically raise it. It processes whatever is in front of it exactly as filed, and it answers exactly the question it is asked, nothing more, which means the entire system depends on one thing, you asking the right question. And for women born before 1958, women who in many cases spent years out of the paid workforce doing work that was never recorded anywhere, women who changed their names and never thought to check whether the system kept up, women who were told decades ago that a benefit would be zero and simply moved on with their lives, the right question has often never been asked. Not because you were not paying attention, because nobody told you these specific 6 things had changed or had always been true or had simply never been checked. Here is what I want you to do this week. Not eventually, this week. Log into SSA Gov and look at your earnings record year by year from the very beginning. If you worked in public service with a pension and never filed for a spousal or survivor benefit, call 1-800-77-21213 and ask about the Social Security Fairness Act by name. If you have not yet claimed and you're past 66, ask for your benefit estimate at 70 and compare it to today. If you claimed early and are past 66, ask about voluntary suspension and ask for your specific break-even age. If you are widowed and have not yet claimed anything, get all 6 numbers before you sign anything. Your own benefit at 62, 66, and 70, and the survivor benefit at 60, 62, and 66. The sequence in which you claim these 2 benefits is a decision you make exactly once, and it determines your income for the rest of your life. And 6th, if you retired recently from a higher income role, or if your premium is still calculated on a joint income that included your late husband's earnings, file SSA 44 and get your Medicare premium recalculated on your actual current income. Every one of these actions is based on a rule that is already in effect right now in 2026. Every one of them is free, and every one of them can permanently change the number that arrives in your account every single month for the rest of your life.